focus on geometry. We're starting young, obviously, so we're starting with geometry with kindergartners. So why teach them geometry? So experiences with geometric concepts help children build on and expand the spatial knowledge they have when they enter school. So it's really important to build on any spatial knowledge that they have or they don't have. We all know we started in, this is a little bit younger, we started with pre-K and they all come in with different levels of experience. So you really need to get them all on the same level in terms of that. Once students begin to recognize shapes and notice them in the environment, they can begin to discriminate and more accurately describe the unique characteristics of 2- and 3-dimensional shapes. So they're noticing, stop signs, different signs in the road all have different shapes, different characteristics about them. So bringing them into the classroom and giving them more experiences working with these kinds of shapes really helps them build on what characteristics a square has as opposed to a hexagon or a circle. So really building on these foundational principles of basic shapes. And additional exploration increases their capacity to visualize the consequences of assembling and disassembling shapes. So just as Morgan and Sam have presented in their presentation with, say, the shapes like the rocket where they had like the square and the triangle, so things that can build up to make a different kind of shape out of using more than one basic shape.
So we have 2 activities for you today. First, I just want to read the standards so that as we're doing them together, you can kind of piece together where it's fitting in. So a few standards that we found within the kindergarten level. Describe objects in the environment using names of shapes and describe the relative positions of these objects. Correctly name shapes regardless of their orientation or overall size. So recognizing the fact that whether a square is this big or this big,
or even if a triangle is like, if it's this way or if it's this way, it's still a triangle no matter what orientation you put the triangle in.
And then finally, analyze and compare 2- and 3-dimensional shapes in different sizes and orientations using informal language to describe their similarities, differences, and parts. Okay, so our first activity is called, well, we called it the pattern train. So we're going to need a volunteer, so start thinking about who wants to come on up.
You're going to be working in pairs, so I'm going to give you
we're just going to give out one worksheet at a time. Okay. So you should have, all have in front of you this sheet, yes. And normally when you would be doing this with your students, I put together a little packet right here of different shapes, so this way you kind of control what's inside the packet. So you would give to each group of students or individually, however you want to do it, these shapes right here. So if you can see, we have shapes that are different colors, different shapes, and different sizes. So a small green triangle, large green triangle. And before getting to this step, you would be discussing with your kindergarten students different words to describe this. So it's a circle, but it's blue and it's big. So they would be able to describe it as a big blue circle. You would explain for this activity that this one line here between the trains means that there can only be one difference between the shapes. So for example, can I get a volunteer here? Lauren. Okay, so Lauren, you're going to be a kindergarten student right now.
Put yourself in that
mindset.
Thanks.
Okay, so Lauren, choose a shape as your starter shape.
I chose a little triangle.
Okay, so can you describe that again?
A small yellow triangle.
Small yellow triangle. Okay. Now, Lauren, as you know, this one line means that there can only be one difference for the next shape that you put down. So what shape can you put here? Okay, can you describe that shape for me?
A small red triangle.
Okay. So now she's getting used to using the words correctly. So a small red triangle, which is important for the future when you're using adjectives to describe the shape. Instead of saying triangle, big, small, she knows how to order it so that we're working on understanding that it's the shape itself and then those are words to describe the shape. Okay, pick your next one. Okay, can you describe that shape for me?
A big red triangle.
So what was the difference between the small red triangle and the big red triangle?
The size.
The size, good. So she chose the size as her one differing characteristic.
Now say for example, Lauren chooses a shape that's not correct. Can you describe that shape that you put down?
A big blue square.
A big blue square. So what's the difference between this shape and this shape?
It's a square and it's blue.
Okay.
So it's a
different.
different color, right? It's a different color and it's a different shape. So it's not just one different characteristic.
She didn't say that.
What's that?
She didn't say that.
Well, we're saying that to you, but we would keep questioning. So she said, you said it's blue, right? And that it's a square and that one's a triangle. So what is blue? What characteristic of the shape?
Oh, the color.
That's the color. And what else is different? You said that's a triangle and you said that's a square.
The shape.
The shape. So now she, after further questioning, she identifies the two characteristics that are different, and we continue on. Okay, so this is just with one. Okay, hold on. This train right here is with one line. There's also, you can sit down. Thank you, Lauren. Okay. There's also one that you can create where all of them have two lines. So two lines would represent two differences. So every time you put a shape down, it would have to have two differences.
And this one is another one where here there's one, here there's two lines, here there's three. So here there would be one difference, here there would be two different characteristics, and here they would be three, and then back to two. So it's all just different ways of how you can, depending on where your students are, how you can differentiate and build upon prior knowledge and just keep using these as a way for students to figure out the differences in the characteristics they can use between different shapes.
Would that still be for kindergarten, or would that be in a later grade?
You know, it depends on where your students are at in their levels. You should be, some of them will just be able to do the one line, the one difference. But once they get that down, try to see if they can either get to two differences or even mixing it up like that. The different worksheets are just different ways to differentiate in case you have students that are at completely different levels. So this one that we're handing out right now, it has all different, there's 2 lines, 3 lines, and 1 line. So with your partner,
If you'd like to take about 2 minutes maybe and do a few of the first boxes
and if you
on this train, the one that says train 6.
and try the role play to practice. So one of you would be the instructor and the other one of you would be the kindergartner, just to try to get your mind in it and how you would use different words.
And you find two differences? Color and shapes. The differences are
Good. Is there a color?
one difference.
But she did a different shape and one different color. So here you can add one different from this one.